This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today we've got a bit of a long one, with Seb bringing out their Saruman the White Hand deck. They keep a swamp, an island, Frostboil Snarl, Underground River, Callous Dismissal, Lazotip Plating, and Fabricate. Max is rocking his Sauron Lord of the Rings and keeps Blood Crypt, Island, Desolate Lighthouse, Swamp, Doomed Necromancer, Sepulchral Primordial, and Apprentice Necromancer. Marie is still playing her Frodo and Sam deck, keeping Go for the Throat, Esper Sentinel, Many Partings, Temple Garden, Woodland Cemetery, Soul Ring, and Indatha Triome. Last but not least, Felix wants to show me how to play Éowyn Shield Maiden, and he's keeping Professional Facebreaker, Chivalric Alliance, Glacial Fortress, 2 mountains, and an island. Seb wins a die roll and starts us off. They draw and play a Frostboil Snarl, revealing an island and passing. Max just plays the Black Gate, which comes in tapped. Marie draws and plays a Temple Garden untapped, taking 2. She then casts Esper Sentinel. Felix just has an island and passes. Seb also plays an island, passing to Max. Max plays an island and then casts an Apprentice Necromancer. Marie plays a Woodland Cemetery and pays 1 for Soul Ring, and then casts Many Partings, making a food token and going to find a basic. After that, she passes. Felix draws and plays a Fury Calm Snarl, revealing a mountain. He then plays Chivalric Alliance, but doesn't pay the 1 for the Esper Sentinel, so Marie gets to draw a card. Seb plays a Swamp, and they cast Fabricate, but don't pay the 1 so Marie gets to draw, and go and tutor for a Maskwood Nexus. Max plays a Blood Crypt, shocking himself, and is then able to cast a Tormenting Voice, but he does pay the 1. He discards a Profaner of the Dead and draws 2. Max then swings a Necromancer at Marie, dealing 1 and passing. Marie draws and plays a Tireless Provisioner, and then plays a Fortified Village, revealing a forest. This lets her make a treasure with the Provisioner trigger, and she then casts Frodo. Going to combat, Marie swings the Sentinel back at Max for 1 and passes after that. Felix draws and plays a Glacial Fortress. He's got enough now for a Professional Facebreaker, and he passes. Seb draws, playing a mountain. They then cast Saruman and pass. Max plays a Swamp, and then plays out Doomed Necromancer to add to his Necromancer team, and passes. Marie plays a Forest for turn, making a treasure token. She then plays Sam, and then a Prize Pig, and moves to combat. She sacrifices a food, gaining 3, and then makes another food off of Sam. Frodo then becomes her ring bearer fittingly, and she swings him at Felix, who can't block. Felix takes the 1, and after that, Marie passes. Felix draws and plays a Plains. Going to combat, he smacks Seb for 2 with the Facebreaker, and makes a treasure token. After combat, he casts Éowyn and passes. Seb draws and plays an Underground River. They then cast the Maskwood Nexus, naming Army, and amass 4 from Saruman. With nothing else, they pass to Max. Max draws and plays Desolate Lighthouse. He activates the lighthouse to loot, discarding a combustible Gearhulk, and then sacrifices the Doomed Necromancer to bring back the Gearhulk. He picks Marie with the target as it enters. Marie makes him mill, and he hits 3 lands and deals all of 0 damage to her. After that, Max passes. Marie draws and plays an Indatha Triome, making a treasure token. She then plays Lightning Greaves and attaches them to Frodo. She follows up with a Well of the Lost Dreams, and then of Herbs and Stewed Rabbits, making a food token and getting to put a +1/+1 counter onto Esper Sentinel. Marie then cracks a food token, which untaps the Prize Pig, and she taps it to pay to draw a card. Going to combat, she then makes a food token with Sam and gets another ring temp from Frodo, who she swings at Max. Marie gets to loot from the ring trigger, and Max then takes one, and with nothing else, Marie passes. Felix draws and plays a mountain. He casts Jessica's Will, making 6 red and exiling his top 3. He casts Mirror Entity from exile, and then Tyrion from hand. Going to combat, Felix makes 2 knights with Éowyn, and then swings her and the knight at Seb. Seb takes the damage, and Felix gets to make a treasure token, which he uses to help then cast Path to Exile, and targets the Combustible Gear Hulk, plus gets to draw a card from the Chivalric Alliance. After that, Felix moves to his end step, making a human token from Trin, and passes. Seb draws and plays a mountain. They then cast the Swarming of Moria, and gets to amass on Saruman since he's an army now, plus make a treasure token. After that, they pass. Max draws and plays Smoldering Marsh. He then plays Ravenous Chupacabra, and as it comes in, kills Felix's Mirror Entity. Marie draws and ticks up her Saga, making another food token and drawing a card. She then plays Shine Shadow Snarl, revealing a swamp. And then plays a field-tested Frying Pan. She makes a food and a halfling when it enters, which it gets attached to, and then moves the Lightning Greaves off of Frodo and equips a Frying Pan to him before moving the Greaves back onto him. She then plays Banquet Guest, where X is 4, which enters with 8 counters. Marie then cracks 2 food tokens as well, gaining some life and paying to draw 2 cards off the Well of the Lost Dreams trigger, plus giving Frodo +6/+6 until the end of turn. Moving to combat, she makes a food token from Sam and swings Frodo at Seb, who chumps with their orc army. Marie still gets to loot from the ring trigger as well, and then draws from Frodo's ability since he's been tempted 3 times. With that, Marie then moves to discard and passes. Felix draws and plays a mountain. He then plays Cathar's Crusade and casts a Withered Wayfarer, putting a +1/+1 counter onto his whole team. Going to combat, he makes 2 more knight tokens and putting 2 more +1/+1 counters onto his team again, and then swings everything at Marie. Marie sets up some chumps, but is able to take out Trin with a Banquet Guest, but still takes 21. Felix gets to make a treasure token from the Base Breaker and passes, and during his end step, Seb casts Thrill of Possibilities, putting 2 more +1/+1 counters onto the Saruman orc army. Seb draws and plays a mountain. They then go to combat, swinging Saruman at Felix. Felix takes the hit, and after that, Seb plays a Decree of Pain, wiping the board and drawing a ton of cards. After that, they move to discard as they pass turn. Max draws and plays a swamp. He then casts Sauron and amasses 5, then mills 5, and once he's done all that, gets to reanimate Rionia. This is all before Sauron enters the battlefield even, and after he does, he passes to Marie. Marie draws and makes 3 1/1 tokens off her Saga. She then plays Guillaume and then the Shire, and equips the Greaves onto Guillaume. She follows up by casting a main phase Go for the Throat and targets Sauron. She then plays Trail of Crumbs, making another food token. Going to combat, Marie swings Guillaume at Felix for revenge, and makes a food token on her end step as she passes. Felix draws and plays a Plains. He then plays Farewell, exiling everything but enchantments to really reset the board. He then follows up with a Meddling Mage, naming Saruman, and passing. Seb draws and plays a Felwar Stone and then a Sulphur Falls. They cast a Changeling Outcast, and then cast Sauron the Dark Lord, passing to Max. Max draws and plays a mountain. He activates the Desolate Lighthouse to loot, discarding Sepulchral Primordial, and then casts Treasure Nabber, passing. Marie draws and plays the One Ring, activating it to draw a card, and then puts a burden counter onto it. She then plays a Swamp for turn and recasts Frodo. Felix draws and plays a Tranquil Cove, which comes in tapped and gains him a life. He then plays a Herald's Horn, naming Human, and an Heirloom Blade, which he equips onto the Meddling Mage. He passes after that. Seb draws and plays a Foreboding Ruins, which comes in tapped. They then cast an Angrath, Captain of Chaos, and down ticks to amass 2, putting the counters onto the Changeling Outcast. Going to combat, Seb swings Sauron and the Outcast at Felix, which he takes. The ring tempts Seb, and they make Sauron the ring bearer, but they don't discard their hand, and with nothing else, Seb passes. Max draws and casts Extract from Darkness, milling everyone for 2, and then reanimating the Sepulchral Primordial. As it comes in, he reanimates Marie's motivated pony. Going to combat, Max swings the pony at Angrath, which dies, and after that, he passes. Marie loses 1 from the ring and draws her turn. She then taps the ring to draw 2 more and plays a forest. She then casts an Essence Warden. She follows it up with Sam, gaining 1 life as he comes in, and goes to combat, making a food token. She cracks the food to gain 3, and once more makes Frodo her ring bearer. She then swings Frodo at Seb. Seb can't block, so Marie gets to loot from Frodo, and draws from Frodo's ability, and deals a further 3 to each of her opponents from being tempted by the ring. In her post-combat main phase, Marie casts Mortality Spear on Sauron, sacrificing her 1 ring to pay for the ward, which is just a flavor win. She then passes after that. Felix reveals a Frontier Warmonger from Helrild's Horn, and then draws her turn. He plays a Knight of the White Orchid, going to find a Plains, and then recasts Éowyn. Moving to combat, Éowyn makes 2 Knight tokens as the Cathar's Crusade continues to tick up his board. He then swings the Knights at Marie, and she takes the 8, and after that, Felix draws from Éowyn and passes. Seb draws and plays an island. They then cast Widespread Brutality, amassing on the Changeling Outcast and killing everything else. Felix gets an Heirloom Blade trigger, which gets him an Erkenbrand, and Seb then recasts Saruman. Seb then swings the Changeling Outcast at Marie and passes. Max draws and plays a mountain. He recasts Sauron, amassing 5, milling 5, and then reanimating the Sepulchral Primordial, which in turn gets to steal Seb Sauron, Felix's Meddling Mage, and Marie's Essence Warden. The Meddling Mage comes in, names Éowyn, and Max then passes turn. Marie plays a Command Tower, and then casts Nature's Lore to find a forest. She then follows up with Meriadoc Brandybuck, Peregrine Took, and a Savvy Hunter, and with a bunch of hobbits on her board, she passes turn. Felix draws and plays a Thought Vessel, and then casts the Frontier Warmonger. He then plays Tori Davenant and puts a +1/+1 counter onto his team, and passes after that. Seb draws and plays a Riverglide Pathway. They then cast Time Spiral, amassing 6 onto the Changeling Outcast, and everyone shuffles their hand and non-existent graveyard into their libraries, then draws 7, while Seb also gets to untap 6 lands. They then cast Relic of Sauron, an Izzet Signet, and feed the Swarm, targeting Max's commander. They lose the life, and moving to combat, Seb swings the Changeling Outcast at Max, who can't block it, and Max takes a whopping 28. After that, Seb passes. Max draws and plays a Frostboil Snarl, revealing an island. He plays a Soul Ring and goes to combat. He swings everything he can at Seb, who takes the hit and drops to 5. In his post-combat main phase, Max then casts Living Death to basically wipe the board, and once he's done, plays Anger. Marie draws and plays Loblia, Defender of Bag End, and takes the top card from each of her opponents. She then plays a Motivated Pony and goes to combat. She swings the pony at Felix and passes. Felix reveals Faramir, Steward of Gondor from the Herald's Horn trigger, putting it to hand and drawing. He then plays Niali, and then replays Éowyn before going to combat, and makes 2 Knight tokens and continues to pump the team with the Cathar's Crusade. Felix then swings the tokens at Max, which take him out. With 1 player down, Felix passes, and Felix gets to draw a card from Éowyn. Seb draws and activates the Relic of Sauron to draw 2 and discard 1. They then play a Swamp and cast Summons of Saruman, putting 9 into the X. This makes them a 9/9 Orc army token, mills them for 9, and then casts Commence the Endgame, drawing 2 and amassing even more into the orcs. Seb then passes to Marie. Marie draws and plays a forest. She then plays Sam and goes to combat making a food. She then sacrifices the food and pays for the Trail of Crumbs, putting Rosie Cotton to hand, and swings Lobla and the pony at Seb. Seb blocks the pony but takes lethal, and after combat, she plays a Shire Sheriff. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a token to sacrifice to it, and knowing that Felix's huge board is coming at her next turn, Marie knows when she's beat and scoops it up. Game review time. So it might not feel like it, but this game was 1 hour, 57 minutes, and 34 seconds. I know that seems very long considering it's only 16 minutes after being edited, but that's just the way it falls sometimes. There was a lot of people going back and forth as to who to attack or what to cast, and that can quickly add up in a game. It was kind of cool to see all these upgraded versions of the precon commanders, and I think Éowyn was particularly powerful, and Felix's engine was just going so strong. Cathar's Crusade is just a card that has to be immediately answered, especially if there's token generation, especially if there's consistent token generation, and it's just nuts. I'm sure a lot of people have included it, but I really like the Maskwood Nexus tech included into Saruman. I think it's a fun way to pump up your commander and be able to smash in for 21 potentially, and I thought Seb did a pretty great job with their Amass deck. In a similar Grixis fashion, I think Maxim did a great job with Sauron. I think I would prefer the actual smaller one to this one, but the big one has such a big, flashy effect, and it's so cool. He didn't get to bring back too many cool creatures, although his deck does seem to be Reanimator themed, and there's definitely an undercurrent of Necromancer types in this deck. Frodo and Sam were really fun, and I thought it was pretty great to see Frodo actually get to the maximum level of Ringbearer and get to do that kind of fun stuff. Unfortunately, the white and black costing Frodo isn't as strong as the Frodo Sorin's Bane one once it has maximum Ring Temptation, but it was pretty cool to see either way. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.